Greetings, salutations, how are you? Oh my gosh, we went through a lot right now. So, people are not going to see the behind the scenes of this thing, but we literally just had a whole technical involvement. I thought the world was going to end.
Threatening about dropkicking every human that ever existed.
Yeah, no, 100%. That was going to happen. I promise. So, greetings, salutations, how are you? Welcome to the Wavehouse podcast, season 2, ladies and gentlemen.
Season 2!
After 12 episodes of season 1, the beta basically, you guys have got here to season 2. Welcome. My name is Leo Zakele Johnson, coming to you live and direct from sunny Santon, which is cold at the same time. I am here with a great friend of mine.
Oh,
would you like me to do a long, involved introduction, or would you like to introduce yourself?
I'd like to hear what you have to say, actually.
All right. So, Bryanston's own, future owner of the Harwood International Empire, one of my dearest friends. You know, it's been a short time, but I feel like we've been very close in that short time.
Facts.
Nicole Harwood, how are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. I genuinely feel honored to be here. So, thank you.
Listen, I think sometimes some people, they just get a bit fearful about this. You know, it's a bit daunting to speak for a long time. Podcasts, you know, some people watch Joe Rogan, they think it's going to be 3 hours of mind-boggling, questioning your reality and existence. But this is going to be quite chilled. Some good topics we have here today. Nicole, how would you like to tell people about yourself quickly? You have 24 seconds.
Ooh, okay. My name is Nicole Harwood. I studied hospitality management, but the industry's kind of broken at the moment. But it's definitely my passion, and I'm going to own a hotel empire one day through the manifestation of myself and Leo. Yeah, I don't know.
Love it. I think you guys will get to know her quite well. This is the first podcast she'll be on, but not the last. Probably in some other things in the future. You never know. The web series coming soon. If you're watching this, you probably have heard the announcement. If you're listening to this, it's coming the same day, so you probably heard the announcement. Wow. Okay, let's start. So, first things first, right? There's a show you told me about.
Yeah, Midnight Gospel.
Gospel.
If you haven't watched it, you should watch it.
100%. Let me sit comfortably. And I went in with open ears and eyes and mind, and what else can be open when you're about to watch a show? Everything.
Yeah. No expectations. Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, it didn't disappoint.
It's truly one of the best. Oh wait, thank you. It's truly one of the best things I've watched. I think it like touches on a whole bunch of different topics in a really light-hearted way because of the animation. Because the animation is different from what they're speaking about.
Yeah. Which
means it's just one of those shows that you have to rewatch, because like the first time I watched it, I had no idea what they were talking about.
Not at all.
Because I was too into the visuals. Because the visuals are also crazy, so well done. But yeah, I think it's one of those shows that the more you watch it, the more you see and the more you understand.
Yeah, I agree 100%, because there's a particular episode I wanted to bring to the podcast that links to the conversation we're about to have today. So episode 3. The first time I watched it, I saw it, essentially a quick synopsis of episode 3. He's talking to someone who does magic.
Yeah.
Does, what's the word for it? There's a name for it.
Maybe I wrote it down.
I can't remember. It's a Western style of magic.
Yeah.
And essentially the host of the space cast talks about, well, the host and the guest talk about how magic changed his life, and talks about how, you know, good karma came about through it, and, you know, you start to understand a lot more about
like life and who you are as a person.
Yes. And the progression associated with that, a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very interesting topic, especially now, because COVID, it created this thing where a lot of people either became, well, a lot of spirituality came from it, or people became a lot more science-based, or people denounced science to prove the fact that they're anti-vaxxers. Shout out to my anti-vaxxers. I don't know how you guys went to school with me, had 5 shots, and still say you don't like vaccinations, but that's none of my business. We're not going to start that on this podcast, and we'll never talk about vaccinations in this podcast.
Just go get it.
Yeah, listen.
If you get the opportunity, go get it.
We all want to be outside shaking our ankles and bum. Let's just go get vax, guys.
Yeah.
Vac for vac. So,
vac for vac.
Vac for vac. One time for the one time. So I really like that episode because the first time I watched it, I liked the animation, but I didn't really understand it.
Yeah.
The animation, when you first watch it, I'm not going to lie to you, is very dreary, and it's a bit... Personally, I found it a bit, like, offsetting.
Fair. There's definitely, like, visuals that are, like, a bit hectic, and it's difficult to explain, but it's kind of, like brutal in a sense.
Yeah. Especially the preceding one, because the topic before, I think that's the death one they talk about before.
Yes, with his mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great episode, though. But essentially, the reason I brought it to the table is because I think the spirituality aspect and Wavehouse, we've got a big topic, which is So Spiritual. That's the official name now. So when you see So Spiritual, that means we're talking about spirituality. I think that was a good part, because magic is one of those things that in some way or another we've all been using now, because it's just filtered its way into general media. You think of manifestation, you think of altruism, and just all of these other things. They become so commonplace.
Yeah.
So Nicole, what do you think of that episode? What do you think of just what was said? For those who don't know, okay, so you're going to pause quickly, watch like 10 minutes of it, you'll understand everything we say.
Honestly, it's like a 25-minute episode. Watch the whole thing.
And then come back.
And then come back.
and then rate me 5 stars on Apple.
Yes.
And then go...
Leave a review. Say how much you love us.
Exactly. Then tell your friends, tell your auntie, tell your uncle, tell your goldfish, tell your new dog, tell your old dog, and tell your cat.
And your ancestors. Why not? Get them involved as well.
Exactly. So what did you think of that episode?
I thought that it touched on spirituality in a very interesting way. Because what I like about spirituality is that there's so much, and you can kind of choose and decide which you want to believe in and follow. And let me get my notes out.
Get your notes out.
He touched on topics. He basically said that meditation is basically like training your mind.
Yeah.
Which is like obviously, and like rewiring your brain and that type of stuff can come from the stillness in your mind.
Yes.
And he also spoke about that a lot, like the stillness and contentness, I think. But the one thing that he said that I didn't really agree with, I understood, but I didn't really agree with, is that he says happiness. Oh no, fuck, that's in the other thing. That's not in Midnight Gospel, sorry. Okay, let me...
Don't worry, but it's actually related, not to interrupt you.
No.
Well, I'll turn it back to you, because you said something very interesting. The whole meditation part. And meditation is something that I think we get preached to and told about so often that we don't even realize it's like a very spiritual thing.
100%.
It's one of the few times as an individual you can be within yourself and you have to focus on yourself.
Yeah.
Which is very hard. I mean, we're both here from Joburg, which you sit down for too long and now you've missed a few things.
Yeah, all the jewels. I haven't gone out in a while and I've missed Katie's Palace. What's the other one? Josie Gin.
Shout out Josie Gin.
I haven't gone out since like this year and I'm already missing all of the things, But I think it's important to be able to take that time for yourself and like get that stillness in your brain, that like calmness and everything, because shit's hectic. Like we constantly being fed opinions, news, media, everything. Like we're constantly being given so much that it's important for us to just sit down and like clear our minds, have time for ourselves, The thing that I was getting at,
please,
from the Midnight Gospel that I thought was very interesting is that he spoke about oral traditions and how storytelling for many people is just believed as telling another person a story and like educating them in that way. Yeah. But he explained it as the energy that's passed through your words. Yeah. And that's I'd never thought about it like that before. And it interests me because it relates to that book you showed me.
Yes, the Four Agreements.
The Four Agreements. If you haven't read it, read it. It changed my life, genuinely. But be impeccable with your word.
Exactly.
Say what you mean and mean what you say. It's important.
Yeah.
Because the energy that you're giving out isn't just in the actions that you're doing. It's in the words you say. It's in the tone that you use and with the words you say. It's all about intent at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Which is I think a big part of spirituality.
100%. I think, listen, a lot of books are going to be spoken about, talked about and all of that because I'm a person who loves to share. I like to know people. And when I get to know you, I know what I can share with you.
Yeah.
And I build that relationship. So with you, Nicole, I found a lot of the things I talk about on this podcast, we tend to share a lot with each other, in common. And when you introduced Midnight Gospel to me, there were certain things where I'm like, I know this. Like, you know, when you look at something, like, I know I've been thinking exactly the same. I know this.
And now it's in words.
Yeah, or it's in a visual that's
yes.
someone else is like agreeing with it.
Yes.
But before I ask you this next question, I just also wanted to say this. So like the thing about words also, one thing that's happened over the course of like humanity, and there was a period of time where I was very interested in like African history as a whole, because unfortunately it's not really recorded.
And it's so sad that the Cape Town fires, oh my word, it gives me goosebumps to think about how sad that is. All the African literature and stories that have been burnt, literally just disappeared.
And it's some of the rarest African
100%
literature, because for people who are from different countries, I know I have a few listeners from Russia, from Pakistan. Shout out. Shout out to the homies.
Come visit South Africa, please.
I mean, like,
we need the tourism money.
Listen, the thing about African history is it's not really recorded. At different times in history, certain things have happened, and also we are known as a lot of stories are passed through generation.
Yes, isn't the tradition more to orally give the lessons than it be written down?
So even if people want to get onto a neurological and genetic and like just a passed down thing, you'll find if you go into some of these, a village, and like go speak to someone, they can tell you a story that's been passed down 50, 60 years before their grandparents were born. And in Europe or something, they've been writing things down because they just did.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean one's better than the other.
No,
we just developed in a different way to have it happen.
Yeah.
But I now need to ask you,
okay,
Nicole, what is your, and you'll be able to relate it to Midnight Gospel, what is your spiritual background? What is your spiritual path currently? How are you feeling about everything?
It's quite a loaded question, because I'm definitely still on the spirituality path, and I don't think that the spirituality path ever stops.
Never.
Because even in the 7 Spiritual Laws or whatever, that book,
Shout out Deepak Chopra.
Another book that Leo recommended me that you should all read. It's amazing. He basically says that, oh no, this was in Midnight Gospel. I'm getting these things confused.
But that one,
all these spirituality things. But he basically says that, no, I'm wrong. It is a law of giving.
But it's actually, but it is to actually say some of the topics actually go together.
100%. But this is the thing for me about spirituality is that there's everything. Like there's so much like knowledge and understanding and like ways to look at it, and it's all right.
Yeah.
Which is so beautiful to me because, okay, so my spirituality journey.
Tell the peoples, tell the homies.
So, how's it? So, I grew up at an all-girls Catholic high school. From grade 0 to matric, was there, did it all, ingrained in Catholicism. My family was also Catholic, so I did the baptism, First Holy Communion, confirmation, all the things. But I didn't like that when I asked a question, I was told, don't worry about it. You're not supposed to know the answer. So that's almost like kind of been ingrained in me that I don't want to know the answer. Like there is no answer that I'm supposed to know, so I'm not going to know it. And spirituality has kind of given me the opportunity to lean into that in a positive way. Like there's so much that I don't know, but there's so much that I can learn and see, and the things that I receive from spirituality don't feel as like, this is the way it is, believe it or not. You know?
Yeah.
It's more like, read this book on spirituality and decide, does this work for you? Does this not work for you? And it's all about like love at the end of the day. For me, spirituality is all about love and like the way your love is shown and given and yeah, all of that. And then I never used to be very spiritual. And then I started chatting to people like you and one of my friends, Braden. Shout out Braden.
Shout out Braden.
And it wasn't like chats about spirituality that made me spiritual. It was chats that I realized were spiritual made me spiritual. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I was just able to have conversations with people and get onto this level almost. This
the same wave.
Exactly. This like emotional level though.
Yeah.
Where it's like just raw and honest and this is exactly how I'm feeling and I'm just going to live my truth. And then through that I found spirituality.
Yeah. Sorry for saying that, ladies.
No.
The thing I enjoy about what you said was during that period of time. So actually, you guys are going to realize I do a lot of take backs, turn back, left, right, up, down, everywhere in a conversation. It's the Wavehouse. You're sitting on the couch with Uncle Leo and someone he's really fond of, a great person, good energy, good vibes. Do you remember that time in Jollies that we both remember as like our first time?
Yeah.
Okay, so your first time re-meeting each other, basically. I always say that like that period of time, I don't say I was finding spirituality, but I was like able to put into words what journey I was trying to like go on.
Okay.
And you always remember me saying energy.
Yes.
Like I'll keep saying it even when people on Twitter are saying, "Oh, that's so corny, the energy people." I don't care. You can kick rocks.
Tell me where energy goes.
It's only transferred. It's a give and receive.
It never dies. Tell me where it goes.
That's the thing.
That's my chat about the energy. Like all those haters that don't want to like lean in. Sorry, I cut you off.
No,
that don't want to like lean into like the energy chat. Tell me where energy goes. Please.
I like it because I like how that it was a turning point in my life, because I've always, so to give my background if you haven't heard before, I was Christian. I was Christian. I went to a Christian school. I went to an Anglican school for 2 years, did the Eucharist, did all of that. And it's not that I ever felt like religion was wrong or anything like that. There's a certain point where I looked at it and I said, this isn't for me, because I understand how in words translation is lost.
Yeah.
Over time, there's no way we can have one Bible that has always worked for this period of time, because people have changed.
Yeah.
Over time, things changed.
Yeah.
Over time, even the Bible had to change. In fact, even the Pope changed.
Yes.
And he changed his perspective and told us that this way of life had to change. Now, I want people to know...
Sorry, I just quickly want to cut...
quickly.
You were chatting about the Bible, and in the Midnight Gospel, one thing that really like stood out to me, and I wrote it down, he said, the Bible is the greatest book of magic.
Yes.
Like, that is... Because obviously magic isn't like, here's a card, or a coin appeared behind your ear. That's not the magic he's speaking about. I think the magic he's speaking about is like the power of spirituality.
Yeah.
And that was that really like put me back, and I had to pause it and sit like... The Bible is the greatest book of magic. Yeah.
It almost gets back to what you said of everything is more so about love.
Yeah.
Because so I've been doing a lot of history reading and so forth, and even gets into the Deepak Chopra 7 spiritual laws. It gets into that. What he said after that was, if you know how to read the Bible.
Yes.
It's the most important It's the most important part of that whole thing. He basically says, the Bible is the best book the most interesting and most insightful book of magic if you know how to read it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, when I was younger, I read the Bible, I didn't understand it. But I understood that certain things here are intentionally hearsay. They're intentionally written in a way that show you the good that a person can do.
It's because, like anything, but even the Bible, it's a person writing their experiences. And that's them, like that's their experiences, but our experience, even separately, is so different from that person who decided many years ago to write that.
I mean, even the fact that I think like sometimes I just get into it like, and I always say this so that like the guest is always comfortable. You can be spiritual without religious, and you can be religious and spiritual, but I don't know how you can be religious without spiritual. And then I started clocking you can, because there's certain people who they follow the book to follow what they should be,
because it's what they've told they must do.
Yes. Whereas there's certain people who understand that this is what my moral basis will be now. The book is my moral basis. It can show what man, woman should be, can be. Even if the stories are not true, that doesn't matter. This is my moral goodness, and it will take me to my final destination, which I want it to be heaven.
Yeah.
Which is why I always say spirituality is the journey. It's not a okay, cool, today I am going to say that I follow all of the tenets of Buddhism. No, I am someone who's spiritual because these are the things that are grounding me to reach a destination which I want to get to in the future. Which is why I like that Midnight Gospel one so much, because he even spoke about the fact that he was in prison before, and in prison he found faith. Yes.
Yeah.
And the question that was posed was, do you think it was a sort of good karma? And he was like, yes, it was the best kind of karma.
Yeah.
And to someone who's not like, because of the stigmatisms and so forth associated with something like prison.
Yeah.
And I can understand, like if someone says to you, I went to prison.
But what did you do? Why did you go there? Yeah.
No matter what they say, you're still going to be like.
Yeah.
because in
They were
different countries,
convicted, and I get what you mean.
in different countries, it's not a rehabilitation center.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
I'm locking you up.
Good luck.
You're a menace to society.
Yeah.
They write you off. But his whole thing was, the 2 points that like basically took me on this path were, it's good karma even in a bad situation.
But I think that's very much the person. Do you know what I mean? Like being, and I think this does link to spirituality, but it's being able to be self-aware, sit in yourself and understand that your circumstances aren't as bad as you think they are. And that, yes, even if they are the worst circumstances you've ever been in, to know that you can get out of it. Yeah. And that's just through sitting with yourself and being self-aware, and meditation helps with that. But there's other things that help as well. Yeah. Like finding a passion, or, exercising for some people. I mean, yeah, like there's a lot of people, like, they find that like when they go workouts and everything, that sort of rush that they get afterwards is so exhilarating that they find a level of ecstasy from it. Yeah, they've been so pure in their life that like a great workout where they're nearly at the point of throwing up is like, I've reached a point of ecstasy. Yeah, but exercising does release dopamine in your brain. That's just a fact. And I think if people are struggling to get dopamine in another way, like in their life, if they're depressed or something, then through exercising, your body naturally releases that. I'm sure it feels like the best ever. I'm fortunate in the sense that I can find that dopamine other ways, and I don't have to exercise, but I have to do other things, I have to journal. I have a journal that I write in when I do it when I'm not feeling great, but I need to do it when I'm feeling great as well. Yeah. And that helps me. That's my exercising. It's like my brain's workouts almost, Yeah. So let's touch on that more. On your spiritual journey, you spoke about the fact that, I brought up certain things, your other friend Brendan brought up certain things. How has it been in relation to other friends you may have had? And, obviously after school, you've now had new friends, you're able to explore different parts of Johannesburg now freely, different and more open thoughts. And even, which I'll relate to later, like actually just comment on that, because there's something in my head right now I have to remember to ask you about. Okay. Honestly, I've realized a lot more people are spiritual without them even realizing it. I think that people labeling themselves as spiritual can often be like scary and everything, because, or at least for me, like labeling myself as things I don't like. So like labeling myself as spiritual was interesting, because the people that like were very religious that I went to high school with were surprised and like confused by spirituality, because I've constantly been trying to think, like, when I was religious because I was just religious because I was told to be religious, not because it's what I believed. How did I think about spirituality? And I remember thinking about it like very like, oh, it's very like in the air, they don't really know what's happening, like they're just choosing to believe what they want, not what they're told. And now, being out of the situation, being able to decide what I believe, I'm able to like see spirituality is a thing that I just inherently like fell into. And a lot of the people that I associate myself with are in that boat. They have that like self-belief and like self-growth that is necessary in spirituality, but they don't label it as spirituality.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. So now I can. Okay. I don't know if it's still your Instagram bio. Yeah. But the last time I checked,
challenge your perspective.
That one exactly. And I think especially on the spiritual part of the podcast, SO Spiritual, shout out. I think a lot of people, if they're listening to me, they're probably open to challenging their perspective. Yeah, fair. I think that's like, if you, so apart from the people who are new to me and don't know me personally, from the people who know me, they more than likely are prepared to listen to what I have to say because I'm challenging something. I'm not necessarily a person that agrees with everything. Yeah, but you're also not the type of person to be like, what you're saying is wrong. Yeah. It's like, oh, well, you live your truth.
And I want to hear about it. Yeah. I want to understand it, which is beautiful.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What were you saying? What was the question?
So most of the question is, have you been in circumstances and instances where you've had to challenge your perspective outside of the current ones you've elaborated on? And have you, or do you feel like you've helped any of your other friends or peers, parents, family members,
Yeah.
anything like that, challenge their perspective?
I think I constantly try to, because I'm very conscious that I'm in a very privileged position. I live in a beautiful house with an amazing family that love and care about me.
Shout out to the dogs.
Shout out to the dogs. Pepsi households. And that's a privilege, genuinely, because so many people aren't in the same position. And as soon as I was able to like take a step back from having and be thankful for what I have, then I was able to challenge my perspective. And I actively try to challenge other people's perspective all the time. I think it's important. Just by, like, if they say something racist or sexist or something, I say, excuse me, what did you just say? Explain to me what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
And then having a conversation about it from there, you know? But yeah, I think I have helped a few people. I try to, you know, but it's also difficult sitting here saying like, oh, I've helped so many people, I'm such a good person. Ooh. That's like, I'm not that person to be like that.
Yeah.
But I know that if somebody's having a problem and I sit down next to them, they will leave the conversation feeling better. I know that. And because I'm challenging their perspective on how they're feeling, I'm always the person to be like, okay, this is really shit, but what if? What if you think about it like this? I'm a delusional optimist.
That's a bar.
I have to be. Otherwise I wouldn't be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't be the person I am now, and I wouldn't experience life or have the same like chutzpah for life that I do now.
That's a great word.
Chutzpah.
What I took from that and what I also wanted to ask. So, don't you think to a certain extent that the ability to challenge your perspective is a bit of a privilege?
Yeah.
I think certain people, I don't know if I had this conversation with you because sometimes I have these conversations in my head. Someone who lives in someone who lives in the Amish community for 18 years, they have no choice but to live like that.
Because they've never seen anything else.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's certain times where, and I mean, like living in Johannesburg, you don't have the excuse. I'm sorry. You went to a school probably with black people at this. If you're around our age, like after 96, you have no excuse.
Yeah.
Literally, you have zero.
There couldn't be schools now that were only white. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, they
But they couldn't not accept black people.
Wow.
They could just
I know
not like in the media, like not obviously.
Not without like a statement saying maybe this, like it's kind of like the gerrymandering thing where they kind of exclude you intentionally by like writing it into like laws and like ways of like doing it.
Okay.
There's sneaky ways to do it, like this the whole thing of racism is very institutionalized. That's why it's very hard to eradicate it. But yeah, you're right. If you live in South Africa and if you live in Johannesburg, let's use Johannesburg at least for what we know.
Okay, yeah.
Because
there's that fucking Oranje town, whatever.
Yeah,
let's not even get into that. They don't deserve clout.
Yeah. They've been waiting for someone so they can be Googled and someone can be indoctrinated. But I do think that the ability to challenge your perspective, which I think is important, because I'll speak for myself at least. The movement from and like going from I'm a Christian to I don't practice religion, I'm spiritual, is a very difficult thing to say to someone when you're not like over the age of 18, because someone will look at you and say, what do you mean?
Yeah,
like,
what do you know?
Yeah, like what are you saying? And like, I'll be honest, I wasn't able to put it in words that no, religion is spirituality practiced and then moral codes and then this and this and this and this. And I'm a person who, I actually applaud people who are very religious because, and understanding first of all, because your ability to practice and follow all of these, and you have a moral set of codes that you can live by, and then especially if you're able to alter it and then go into rooms with other people and still be able to live your life. I love that.
Yeah, I think it's amazing not to force your beliefs on someone else.
Yeah.
And if you're heavily religious, if you're heavily religious and that's what you believe and is in your soul that you have to believe, that's awesome. But as long as it's not being shoved down other people's throats, then I think it's beautiful. Beautiful
stuff. So the 7 spiritual laws. I'm not going to get too in depth with it.
Okay. There's just one thing that I wanted to touch on.
Okay, so
about it. Yeah, you go and then I'll go.
7 spiritual laws is something I picked up 100% by accident. Actually, every single book I've ever found was like I randomly was looking through something.
And that it almost makes it so much more beautiful that these books impact you and impact me, therefore, based on I don't think that's an accident. Coincidence? Are there coincidences?
What's the saying? There's no such thing as a coincidence. It's a spiritual message. It's like a spiritual alarm that at this point in your life you needed this to happen to you.
You found this book. You
Yeah.
needed to read this book.
Even
That's
with
awesome.
Midnight Gospel, I then went. So I'll come back, everyone. Listen, you're gonna love me for the fact that I go everywhere and anywhere. Live your best life. Even with Midnight Gospel, I then decided, let me read the book Mind Space, which it's about.
Okay.
The whole. So how it came about was they did the whole thing with the Dalai Lama and spoke about how he likes to meditate and how that impacts you. And they basically did studies and stuff in like Harvard in like the 60s and stuff like that. Around the time of, I think it was still around the time of when they were able to do psilocybin experiments and all of that openly.
Yeah.
So all of these books came into my life, to get back onto course. They came into my life and I kind of look at it and I say, I need to understand something really well so that when I am in the point that I can challenge someone's perspective, I can do it with
knowledge.
Yeah, because I hate, if there's one thing I hate in this world, and I don't care who you are, if you just spew absolute nonsense and you don't know what you're talking about.
And then you're not willing to be like, oh, I fucked up, that was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I have no, like, you are the worst type of person.
Because I chat a lot of shit. Like, I say a lot of things that I don't fully know or understand, but I'm always willing to be corrected. If anything, I say things I don't know or understand so that I can be corrected.
That's an interesting thing. I've never thought about that. I've been a bit more silent about things I don't know about and rather...
research on your own time.
Yeah, and then listen. Because the one thing I always realize is that it goes back to the same thing of like how you, like where you come from and the ability to find other information. If your internet and my internet are not the same.
Yeah.
They're similar, they're not the same.
Yeah.
Your Instagram Explore page can tell you that Jesus Christ was born in Romania in 2001.
Yeah.
And my one might say he was born in Zimbabwe in 1666.
Yeah.
Now we're going to fight about the same concept, but we have different nuances, and I don't know how you got there.
Fair. I understand it, like, I think it's important as well to, especially if I was speaking about heavy topics, like really serious topics, then to do research and understand what I'm saying. But honestly, I learn really well from other people. Like I learn best from other people messing up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm very quickly can like learn from another person's mistakes and see the route that they did and the like the ideas that they had to get to a point and see how they fucked up and decide to not do that.